at random decide to come and now make that 600, that's a huge improvement. It's not where we need it to be. But if people have now started changing and want to actually voice an opinion, fair play to them. Welcome aboard. And thank you for coming to try and lend support to everyone. We're just getting to the point now where people have had enough. Will it force change? I'm a little bit assured it'll be if he gets 4 billion, he pisses off. But what Brian, I will say with this,
Go on. I just want to quickly ask Brian, just quickly on a lot of the sales, a lot of the deals we've heard that have been, in the offing. One of the pretenses for a lot of these deals is that Daniel Levy might remain as chairman. How would you feel about new ownership with Levy remaining as chairman? Because look, if you're an operator, you would probably, if you're a new incoming buyer of Tottenham, you would probably want Daniel Levy to remain as chairman because he's a brilliant for your business.
The perfect way I've said this, Simeon, I've said it before, is if I got a divorce from Milana, I'd want Daniel Levy to handle my divorce. Because I'd end up with everything. Even if I didn't have anything.
Not if he knew who you were, Brian.
I just don't want him.
You would end up with absolutely nothing.
I just don't want him anywhere near my football club. I don't see how we progress. Even with someone else's money, I don't trust him with. I honestly don't. But that's my opinion, and I've been this way for 17 years.
So it's more Levy than ENIC. If you had a choice between keeping ENIC for getting rid of Levy or getting rid of ENIC for keeping Levy, what are you choosing?
I don't think ENIC had nothing to do with us anymore anyway. Joe Lewis has signed it all over. The main part of Joe Lewis is nothing to do with it anymore because of what went on. So listen, I've just said I will never change on this stance. I can't. Samir Leopard never changes spots. If other people think he can, fair play. But all I will say before I have to sign off and go to work is the protests are being done the right way this time. Or not, they weren't done the wrong way. That's the wrong words. They're being better organised.
Brian.
They don't just turn up, where are you, do this, do that. They're being organised. There's been planning going on towards it. Hopefully people will come. Hopefully if it rains, people will. If it's a torrential downpour, obviously it's a bust, isn't it? But the weather, just please get out there and support. If you actually do want change and you have been on social media or in these chats or on these channels saying you leave you out and you want change, don't just say it. Go and lend a hand. Believe me, if I could get a flight to Canada to London for the weekend, I'd be on the next plane.
Right, can I offer you guys a bit of advice?
Go on.
One of the reasons why I always ask this question whenever I'm debating anybody, right, about Levy, and I do it all the time. I feel like there's a whole load of ambiguous answers around what it is that you really want. As someone who's a leader of that movement, I think you guys would be very clever if you actually articulated what change looks like, what sort of owner. You haven't got to name a name. I can appreciate the fact that you don't necessarily have a list in your back pocket of all the billionaires that are interested in sport, whatever, right? But I think that you would go some way to getting some more clarity around how people feel if you guys were to actually articulate what change looks like. What is it that you think will be different with the new owner? What is it that you will hold them accountable for, rather than saying things like ambition, right, which is a nothing word. It doesn't mean anything. It's like an intangible word that has nothing that can be attributed to it, and allows you or anyone else it affords you guys the opportunity to move the goalposts around what that looked like after the fact. Just like when it comes to the phrase, was he backed, right? Interpretive is something that can always be up to the interpretation. It's subjective, and naturally when things don't work out, when Tottenham don't win a trophy in the following season, it's used as another stick to bash the chairman with. I would argue that when it comes to transfer windows, people should say, this is what I expect spent, this is what I expect in terms of the numbers of players coming in, this is what will make me happy. Have that stuff dictated down, make it visible, articulated, and obviously something that can be there and referred back to before the fact, so that then later on you can't move the goal, not you personally, but anyone can't move the goalpost on what was or wasn't a good window. And the same comes with a new owner. Who is it that you want in terms of the profile of an owner? What does he look like? What are they into? Are they profit-based? Are they something else? Are they someone who's going to put their hand in their own pocket? Are they someone that's going to,
Sean,
maneuver,
Sean,
wiggle
I'm
room
going to
in the
have
rules?
to. Sean,
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
going to have to stop you there for a second because Brian really desperately needs to go.
Oh,
He
yeah,
starts
I've
work.
actually
Well,
got
that's
1
what I'm
minute
saying.
to get
Just
to work.
find a way to articulate that, and I think you've
I've
given a
got
lot
1
of hearts
minute
and minds.
to get to work and walk down the hallway. So I've got to log in and everything. But guys, thanks for having me on. Everyone in the chat.
Nice one, Brian.
Have a great day. Sean, good to see you. Ben and Sim brothers, love you dearly. Everyone have a great day. Speak to you later.
Nice one.
Big up, Brian.
I think Sean makes some good points, though, when it comes to specificities, as he would say, about what people would want.
I just think there's a desperate need for people to be right. I think it's human nature. I'm not criticizing anybody for the ability, for the wish, the desire to say I'm right, they're wrong, whatever. I get it. But in terms of when it comes to what I hear in the arguments against Daniel Levy and the things that they want from the next guy, I don't hear any actual specifics of what it is that they're looking for. And I think that when that day comes where there is a new owner, unless those things are clear, then there'll always be the opportunity to move the goalposts after the fact. And I don't think that's reasonable if you're so vociferous in your distaste for this current guy, who I haven't really heard, as I said before, consistent and like logical arguments that can test like water, that can hold water when you peel the onion back and look beneath the surface. I don't hear it enough. But what I would get more on board with the story if I could actually hear a profile of a chairman in which these guys actually want that can do things within the rules that are meaningfully different to Daniel Levy, that don't start and stop with the words that are intangible in their definitions, like ambiguous or passion or those sorts of things. Say something specific, and I'll address it, and I'm happy to give you the credit of whether that's a good idea or
What
otherwise.
do you mean, Sean, by moving the goalposts? Who moves goalposts in terms of
Everybody
in
moves
terms
goalposts.
of what? What's an example?
It doesn't matter what the debate is. Everybody moves the goalposts after the fact, because in this community, in the YouTube space, it's a competitive field of people that want to be right. Egos leads the way. So people always, like, I hear it in debates about whether players are good enough, right? Someone will say something. Sava and Arian had a great debate on your show a couple of days ago. The amount of goalpost moving on both sides was incredible, right? They would say a point, the other person would sort of debunk it, and then as soon as it was debunked, they would then move the conversation to a different point so that they could wiggle themselves out of the fact that on that particular notion, that guy had a gotcha. And it was both of them were doing it to each other, right? So no disrespect, I get it. It's human nature. You don't want to be wrong, especially on camera. But like, that's why I think that, first of all, like, diluting the ego is necessary, but also I think that it's just better to say what it is specifically that you want. And if you don't know what you want, then you shouldn't be as angry with what you have. And if you do know what you want, then let's hear it. But I don't know. All I hear is other than him, not him. Levy out is not the solution. The solution is who in, not a name. I can forgive you for not knowing the billionaire's name. I can get past that. But what does it look like? And passion is not an answer. Ambition is not an answer.
People want football to be a bigger priority than what it is right now at this football club.
And how does that look? Tell me what that looks like, and I'll get on board it.
Well, I think it looks like when you're looking at all the revenues coming in from all different various sources, from NFL to concerts to player sales to whatever it may be, the stadium, for it to be more funneled into the footballing side of the business. And I don't think it really is. You're looking at big kind of revenues or big money spent on transfers. Right? 50 million Brennan Johnson, 65 million Solanke. But that's just not measured in terms of the wages that we're spending. And, you can spend that kind of money, but I don't think the ambition is there to take us to where these fans actually want to go. I think the ambition of this football club is just to bring in Champions League revenue. I think that's the goal here. And people want the goal to be a bit higher than that.
So what does that look like? So specifically, so you're saying that it's money spent. So £400 million in 18 months is unambitious.
In terms of wages, yeah.
Wait, okay, again, why does wages matter? If you've got the caliber of the player,
because the caliber of player is going to be brought in via the wages that he's on.
No, but not if the only way
You
that
can
that would
spend
make
50
sense.
million on a player, right? You can spend 50 million on one player and 50 million on another player. It's more
Right.
than likely the player that's going to come in on 150 grand as opposed to 100 grand or below 100 grand. The one at 150 grand a week is going to be a lot better caliber of player.
But who is it that we've missed out on for £50 million that we could have got for 150 and we went in a different direction and got Johnson instead? And why was that? And
Well,
how
I
do you know
think-
that to be the case?
Well, I think in the summer it was clearly evident that Ange wanted someone in the 25 or the 23 in the mid-20 bracket, like a Pedro Neto, like a Heirarchy Eze, like someone of this caliber of player to come in. And we ended up with Wilson Odobert, and Archie Gray and a Lucas Bergwijn
paying
and
Werner big
of
wages,
these old.
165 grand a week.
Yeah, I even heard
Right.
from someone from Paul O'Keefe or someone that we're not even paying him that much, Timo Werner. And it's a stopgap anyway, so let's hope we can bring in someone of that ilk when Timo does leave.
Right, but again, the Wilson Odobert thing wasn't a £50 million player, was he? How much did Wilson Odobert cost?
25.
Right, so there's not a comparison. So if it's the Brennan Johnson thing you're talking about, again, listen, I'm all for. I'm not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that I'm happy with the transfer policy. Well, I said earlier, I think that it's a mismatch of it doesn't make sense to me that this guy Ange is so heavy on this relationship with mentality monsters, and yet is happy to be on board 18-year-olds as a transfer process. It doesn't make sense because by the age of 18, your frontal cortex isn't even developed yet, so you can't be
Correct.
a mentality monster. So I completely agree with you that there's a mismatch in logic in it, but in terms of the specifics around how do we know what we do or don't know regarding the transfer policy, it's all hearsay, and I don't know how else you judge the guy or hold him accountable other than take the guy at his word, or if you don't, then you're calling him a liar, and that's Angie saying was he okay or not with the transfers that we have, and he said he was.
Do you
So
genuinely believe that he was, though? Do you genuinely believe that he was happy with what we brought in?
I probably not. I probably would say I think he. Again, I 100% find it strange that he was okay with such a youth-focused approach, but if he holds the mentality argument to such high regard. But what I can't forgive then is why he would sign up to a club who has made it abundantly clear that is the transfer policy of the football team at the moment. Right, so if you can't have your cake and eat it, you can't blame Daniel Levy for hiring a manager who you then discredit his answer regarding whether he's happy with the transfer window or not, because he himself signed up for a club knowing full well that he was going to walk into that transfer policy. It's either on Ange or it's not on Daniel Levy, is it? Daniel Levy says, like, you're the guy, but this is the terms, this is the process, right? But if Ange is okay with that to sign the contract and get paid his money, then he can't,
Sean,
and he's lying to the media. That doesn't make any sense to
We
me.
bought Archie Gray 40 million. We're paying him apparently 75 grand a week. Like, is that not a conscious decision? Like, we're not paying him nothing. Well, that's not an insignificant fee. So surely
You've never
that's a
played a
player we really
championship minute.
wanted.
Yeah, Premier League minute. Never, not one Premier League minute. Getting paid 75 grand a week and 40 million. That guy better become a world-class player. Otherwise, like, we have royally screwed up there. And again, I don't think
Sean,
Daniel Levy's not the guy that understands that Archie Gray's going to make it or not. Daniel Levy is the ear that listens to people like Johan Langer on that regard, right? So
But
for me,
Sean, we talk about Ange and maybe coming under false pretenses. This happens under every single manager. It happened with Conte, it happened with Jose Mourinho, and now it's happening with Ange Postecoglou. None of these managers, in my opinion, in my belief, signed up for what they actually got through this football club.
and that's one interpretation, right? But
do you not believe that though?
I don't know. I think that you have to challenge the narrative. You have to scrutinise the motivations. Antonio Conte got paid £15 million a year. £15 million a year. Think of that, right? Mm-hmm. Ridiculous amount of money, more than most players in world football get paid. And what did he do?
He was second in the league, wasn't he? In terms of price paid for manager.
Yeah, behind Pep, right? And what did he do? Well, he got us into the top four once, and then he complained as soon as it went wrong. That guy only has experience working, like, similar to Pep in that regard. Most of his experience comes in working with the best squads, the best teams in the best leagues, right? But Tottenham is this enigma of a unit where the fans, the expectation, the stadium, it all looks like we're a top tier team, but in reality, through no fault of Daniel Levy, because he had the audacity to get us in that. If you go with the argument of the buck stops at the top, it's his effort. You credit him with the bad, you credit him with the good. That's the rules of logic, right? If the buck stops at the top, then he got us into a position where you have the audacity to consider title challenges as reasonable. And for me, I don't know if it necessarily is when you consider the caliber of what you're competing against all the time. There's no other league like it. And is there an argument that the last 5 years we've regressed? It's not even an argument, it's a fact. We have. But I would say it's more around the progression of other teams to come and be an ever-present part. Aston Villa, certainly absolutely part of the story now. Newcastle United, Brighton, right? West Ham made a little bit of movement in there for a while. It's difficult. It's easy to go from 12th to 7th. It's difficult to go from 6th to 1st. And that's the struggle that Tottenham have to face when you have
Forget
an owner
fast, at least
who works
be a
within
bit
the rules.
competitive. Be a bit competitive. Liverpool were able to do it. Arsenal have been able to do it.
Again,
and all
they're
we're
the big
doing
teams
is
that always
regressing.
have. They are the big teams that have always been more successful. There is not
Yeah, but
another.
they dropped
If there was like 4 or 5 teams that you could point to that had won more trophies than Tottenham, that have traditionally been the same as or less successful than Tottenham, I would say there's a lot more merit to it. But when you actually scrutinise the data, there's only 2 teams that have won 70% of all of the trophies in the last 25 years, or 65%, and 90% of trophies goes to 5 teams. The 2 teams that came along and bought their success before the rules were put in place to stop other teams doing it, and the 3 teams that have always done it. United, Arsenal and Liverpool. It's not a coincidence to me that Villa haven't done anything, Everton, Newcastle, nobody else. Tottenham are just one of 12. There's only 12 teams that have won anything. The only other standout is Leicester, and they got relegated 2 years after they won the league.
Forget winning. I'm talking about just being competitive and actually looking like, we're on the right path. We haven't done that.
That's not the sort. That's again, it's a goalpost movement, mate. Because this is what this whole story started with Romero.
It's not a goalpost movement because I never mentioned winning anything on this stream. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
Romero did.
A competitive team.
We started this conversation with Romero's comments around whether or not he's right to call out Daniel Levy because he thinks that we should be a title challenge every year. And either he is delusional around the history of Tottenham Hotspur and what is reasonable, or he's got an agenda and a motivation to either A, get himself ready for a nice transfer away that will be far easier to achieve if Daniel Levy doesn't like him. He's not an idiot, or at least his agent isn't an idiot if that's his end game, right? Or he genuinely thinks that we should be there, in which case you shouldn't be pointing the finger at the person who, by his own logic, is responsible for putting us in that position in the first place. It doesn't hold water. It's just a logical
illusion.
fallacy.
It's an illusion, this football club. You walk into that stadium, you walk into that training ground, and you think, bloody hell, this team must be fighting up there for title. They've got the best facilities in the world. And it just doesn't relate to what's going on the pitch on a consistent basis.
So because we have a stadium that looks nice and was the most recent built, we therefore, by extension, have to be competing with City.
Isn't that what it was there for?
The goal, yeah.
Well, in terms of a revenue generator, it has been, though. There's no argument that anyone who says
we're
that
not
it hasn't
anywhere
been
close. We're actually regressing
in terms
since
of
the
generating
stadium.
the money. The point of a chairman is not to deliver success; is to deliver the resources for success for the people that are better experts at the job of delivering the success.
He micromanages everything around the club.
Says who? You don't know that, mate. That's
know
hearsay.
that. It's a fact. It's not hearsay.
It is hearsay. It's 100. So you
We
know
saw it in the
exactly.
Amazon doc. We saw it in the Amazon doc, didn't we? He was just everywhere, isn't he? He's in the players' lounge. He's having.
There's no other chairman, surely, that just sits in the lunchroom with the players.
Supposedly took a step back when Scott Munn came in. Supposedly.
Who knows? I don't know. This is what I 100% acknowledge that all of the things that you guys say could be true. But I'm not going to sit here and just take your word for it because I don't know, and I know you don't know either.
Well, that's what journalists report. That's what a
But
lot
they
of
don't
people have to
know.
report.
They don't know it either.
They get it from insiders. I mean, you've got to take something.
And where's their agenda? That's the point I'm making. Scrutinise the motivation.
Why would they lie about Levy being a micromanager?
I remember people saying, you know what, you want to find out about Daniel Levy? Go and read Glenn Hoddle's book. What, the guy that failed to deliver success?
I'm talking about the staff. I'm talking about their staff and stuff that they're inside the club that they've been reported.
You can't be that naive. You can't be that naive. Everyone's got. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that we don't know. We don't know.
Going on and questioned if he's the right man. I do tend to agree with that sentiment. I do think the revolving door is a disaster.
We don't ever see a project through.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think if Spurs genuinely believe, and if the players genuinely believe that this guy's the right man, then it's something then I've got to get behind.
I was thinking about last night. There was one thing you said yesterday, which I was thinking about. You said, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see where the program. Well, I don't see any light, and I was thinking like it's because we've never seen any light as a fan base. We don't
we did
see
under Poch.
light. Yeah, but we never won anything. Well, we never like.
There's still light at the end of the tunnel.
No,
though.
but we never saw winning. We never actually got there. We don't know
That's
what that
not
looks
what light
like.
at the end of the tunnel is. Light at the end of the tunnel is seeing a progress to that path.
Yeah, but everyone talks about trophies. That's the one thing everyone talks about. No one talks about top 4. Everyone talks about winning.
Yeah,
something.
but we were on the cusp of greatness under Pochettino.
I get that. But we've never seen a winning team.
No, it's true. We haven't seen a winning team, but we've seen light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and under Poch, he finished. I know it went a lot better in his second season, but he also had a lot of difficulties early on as well. Like, I wouldn't. Obviously, this is a lot worse than that, but we could easily, have a better second half of the season. That's not the point. But we've never seen a team win things, and that's like we don't know what that looks like at the start of that.
Something you said yesterday as well. I was thinking about it a lot. Something you said yesterday about a lot of people's anger might be displaced, whether it be when it's coming for Ange and where it should be directed, or where they should be directing it at the ownership. 100%. And I think that's very much where I stand as well. And I think I have displaced a lot of anger towards Ange in the past week, where it should be directed more at the ownership, in my opinion. However, I still think Ange is very culpable as well for a lot of the results that we've got this season. So, look, I'm gonna. If the players and the ownership and everyone within the club really want to back Ange, then I'm gonna back it as well. Mr. Box Office TV with a super chat. He says, Sean, you got an agenda. Get me on to debate him another time.
Another time, not now.
Brian, Philly Deli's bro says, speaking constructively, what can the club do to adjust its wage structure to afford new world-class talent in the payroll, just outside investment, or the board changing what's acceptable on the books?
Yeah, so one of the options
the
would be...
wage structure at the moment is 200 grand a week is the ceiling for a base wage, and we have a bonus structure, heavily incentivized bonuses, which we don't really know what they are, but we hear about them.
I mean, we only heard about them really with Harry Kane. I don't think we've ever heard about them.
Yeah, but I'm sure
with anyone else.
No, Danny Rose said like everyone has bonuses. I'm sure they all have heavily incentivized bonuses in
I've seen ex-players talk about they've only had bonuses if they beat a top 6 club by more than 3 goals or something stupid like that.
Yeah, but look, Kane, I'm sure if Kane had a goal bonus, I'm sure the other strikers also have a goal bonus. Like, I'm sure everyone has heavily incentivized bonuses. That's the wage structure of this team.
But we don't know that.
No, it is. We know that. There's bonuses. There's obviously bonuses. Harry Kane had that.
There's obviously going to be bonuses in there, but obviously like the specifics of each one is going to be down to the client and the agent, right?
Why would they give a bigger goal structure to Kane than they would to a striker who's less likely to score goals? They want to incentivise him to score.
Because they've been begging Harry Kane to stay for years.
No, they're going to incentivise the strikers to score.
But Kane's bonuses would have been more than anyone else's.
I'm sure
because of who he
is just as much as Kane's for the goal bonus.
I disagree.
It's going to depend on
I'm sure it's high. I'm sure there's a high goal bonus for Solanke, put it that way.
It's 100% going to be unique. Ben, I'm with you on this one. I think that the agent is going to sit down and they're going to figure out what sort of level of client are they working with, right? Does the footballer want to be at the club? Is he pushing for a move? How valuable is he? All those things are going to come into it. And contracts are not signed very quickly, are they? Those negotiations happen back and forth. I want 10% per goal, or I want 20%. Would it mean that 14, 16, 15? There's all that stuff goes back and forth. I'm sure they're all going to be unique contracts. But the structure of the deal, there's wiggle room to make differences within it. But look at Liverpool, right? Liverpool lose more money or make less money in a year when they win the Champions League than they do in the year when they don't, because they have a deliberate structure that incentivizes outperformance. And so, to Liverpool's bosses, it's worse if they win the Champions League. To Liverpool fans and to the players, it's fantastic. And so I don't know what the right combination to answer that guy's question. I don't know what the right construct of a sort of base plan is around how do you incentivize performance. But that stuff is obviously an ongoing thing. But maybe Tottenham have got it wrong. Again, who knows, right? Who knows?
He sent another one saying, big up, Daigle. What message can all Spurs fans unite behind right now to pressure the board to go big on January signings? I mean, I don't think anyone can pressure the board at this point to go big on January signings, but...
Look, we're on our feet at the moment. If they can't see that, then I mean, look, we've done it. We've been here before with this board. I remember that January we had Kane and Son out for 3 months, and they brought in Bergwijn, and they didn't really get a replacement, or they didn't get someone to come in. I think clearly this squad needs help in January. We've got a lot of injuries. We need more quality, and we need cover, and we're out on our feet at the moment. I think, look, the noises are the board acknowledge it, but whether they act on it, there's nothing that we can do to force them to do it.
And he sends another one saying fan ownership is the solution. Sean, are you backing a We Are Tottenham TV consortium? You going to join us?
I would.
You can be the
100%.
treasurer, Sean. You can be the treasurer.
I think that those sorts of ideas are really nice, and they work in some places. Germany is the 50 plus 1% rule. It is a model that I think has a lot of value in it. It's often seen in Brazil. I think Venezuela, Argentina has it. I think there's lots of places in South America that has that model. It just requires everybody else in the league to go to the same thing. It wouldn't work if only Tottenham had a 50 plus 1% rule and you were competing with Chelsea and City, who have a different set of criteria. So it is a nice idea. I'm not sure how it works on a competitive level against other European teams. Bayern Munich seems to be obviously the only beneficiary of it really in German football relative to everybody else. But long story short, yeah, it's a nice idea. I just think it would require everyone to get on board it, and there's too many powerful figures that would say no chance, because they see the golden goose that is football ownership in the long run, especially under a new TV broadcasting model that would go to a Netflix of sport that's definitely going to come in the next 10 years. That's the big money maker for all these guys. That's why they're all here. They're waiting for that thing.
Ryan Isaacs, member for 31 months, says Levy out. And last but not least, Lily White Indius. This is one for you, Sean. He says, the Nirvana logical fallacy, when a person ignores or dismisses an argument or criticism because no solution is being offered. That's what Sean is doing, it seems.
Yeah. All logical fallacies doesn't necessarily, a logical fallacy doesn't necessarily equate to a bad argument. It's just there's a name that's attributed to. It's a nomenclature that's attributed to something where there's no better offering. But ultimately, tell me why that a problem is a solution unless you offer a solution, and you haven't. No one has. I don't hear it. I hear it all the time. If you're someone that spends all day long, every day, talking about Daniel Levy and how bad he is, make your argument, steel man your argument. I'm talking to Brian, I'm talking to the guys at Tottenham Away, Hotspur, whoever, all these guys, all these channels out there that are 100% on that side of the oche. This is not a criticism. I support your right to go after what you want. But do yourselves a favour and steel man the argument. If this is your 99% of your content, go and research and find out who is the perfect candidate. Don't say, it's not my job to figure it out. Why not? Go and figure it out.
Short, is there not arguing to say, if I see a helicopter land crashing into a building, I don't need to be a pilot to know that you shouldn't be doing that? You know what I mean? Yeah,
but you do need to be a pilot to know that who do you want to fly the next helicopter out of there.
No, just get another pilot.
So any pilot will do. That's what we're doing here. Is it? Anyone will do. No, you know what's saying? That's a brilliant sub. I love that, mate. Is that where we're at? Is that what Levy means? Is that what Levy out really means? I don't care who, just anyone but him. And if that's the case, then I am 100% never going to be on board it, because there's so many versions of a future that doesn't involve him that are worse.
People don't think about the possibility of a new owner and it getting worse. I think people don't.
And that's a reality.
It is a reality, because you look at the guy that was, linked. It turned out to be rubbish last week. Was it the American geezer? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and he probably would have been even worse than Levy. The American Daniel Levy, they were calling him.
Yeah, it was a nonsense story, but. There's plenty of owners. There's plenty of real-time examples. Look at Everton. Perfect example. Right? Perfect example.
But also, Sean, in terms of fan pressure and in terms of what we were speaking about earlier, in terms of can fans pressure change at the top, right? I was looking at what Arsenal were doing, and they were very unhappy with Stan Kroenke and Josh Kroenke and all that. And I believe they actually did pressure change at the top. They didn't pressure him to sell, didn't pressure him to get out, but they definitely pressured him to change his model and change the way he was working. So maybe it could be the same here. And I feel like, regardless of what you feel of Daniel Levy, if he was to make the changes to really make us competitive again at the top, I don't think many people would have too many problems with him.
Well, what changes? They stuck with Arteta, whereas they sacked it.
No, but they started giving them a lot more money as well, and
we spent
released more
400 million.
Yeah, but you look at the wage structure from before that moment until after that moment as well.
If I look at their wages, I think only 2 players in their squad don't earn 100 grand. Everyone earns at least 100 grand in their squad.
Yeah,
that's true.
But before that moment, I think their wages were quite low.
I don't know. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know. I haven't seen it. Maybe. I don't know.
No, it's true. I've looked into it.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Arsenal, the Kroenke story is, again, misunderstood. I think if you look into it, you'll find that the extra investment, they took the opportunity to. They haven't got the same amount of debt that we have, right? So they've taken on additional debt to at different interest rate levels to what we've taken on to be able to put that stuff in. But ultimately, that money is still owed back to Stan Kroenke. And again, you can't just, under the current rules, you can't just inject money into the club if you want to, without any limits to it. You have to pay it back. You have to. All these things are considerations that I know that it can be frustrating to hear someone say the things that stop you thinking that this guy, this half visible, half intangible guy at the top is the problem, the root cause of all of your issues. And if we only got rid of him, it would be so much better. We could spend £10 billion if we found the right investor that had a disregard for money. It just doesn't work that way. And if you're not familiar with the way that it does work, that's why I kind of feel like I should take the stance that I do. I never came into Tottenham content wanting to be the guy that is thought of as the defender of Daniel Levy. I'm not. I'm the defender of the reality, because I don't think people understand, and it's no fault of theirs, but they don't understand how that side of the business side of it works. And if there's no recognition of that part, I think it's incumbent upon someone who does have a platform and does understand it to say those things. It doesn't mean that I think Daniel Levy's the best option. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't welcome a new owner, but let me know who that person is and I'll scrutinise it and figure out whether I think he's a valuable attribution or otherwise. And if
I heard Elon Musk is looking to get into football.
Right. Well, I mean, just like tell you what, what he would do is find efficiencies, right? He's an efficiency monster. But whether or not his decision around just paying someone whatever they want to come in is, I don't know. I don't know. I think that the nuances of what happened with the Todd Boehly story are so specific with Chelsea and Russia and COVID and the Ukraine war, all that stuff, that won't ever be recreated. Look at Newcastle. They have all the money in the world and they can't spend it. Just be careful what you wish for, because new doesn't always mean better. That's all I'm saying. Let's figure out whoever these options are. Let's work together as a community to figure out whether or not they're better for Tottenham or otherwise. Because I think that Daniel Levy could be a lot better than he is, but he's not as bad as some of you think he is.
David says, Levy cutting Daigle's internet FFS, Levy out. And he also says, we need a proper one like United's. Show up, people. He's not talking about ownership, he's talking about protests.
Well, but let's talk about their ownership. Let's talk about that. So Jim Ratcliffe, how's that started? He's been an absolute disaster. He's walked in there and just ripped up the rule book, and in an effort to try to drive efficiencies, he's been attacked. That's not what they wanted. They spent all that time rooting for a new guy. He's made a worse first impression than Keir Starmer. I'm serious though. He has. He's not. He is what you might get as a Tottenham fan. So be careful what you wish for. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess he hasn't even been in the job a year yet. Right.
And what's he done so far that's been eye-wateringly optimistic? Nothing. What's he done that's given cause for concern to United fans? Loads and loads.
I don't really know what's been going on at United. I'm not informed on the situation, so I can't really comment.
Margin pressures, driving efficiencies, all those things that sound technical but ultimately mean less waste, more hard graft decision making around how you spend your money, which ultimately, from a fan's perspective, doesn't really answer the prayers of what they had hoped for from a new owner that they don't already have from the Glazers. It's not been good. It's like you ask most United fans to understand it, to look into it, they're not impressed at all.
Well, I guess, Sean, we won't be making one of those old-style thumbnails about you today, but thank you for coming on, Sean. Thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And do you want to let everyone can find him at Spurs Talk Show? Is it Spurs Talk Show TV? No, it's just Spurs Talk Show.
No, Spurs Talk Show, yeah, Spurs Talk Show.
Yeah, I made that mistake at the beginning of the show. But yeah, tell the people what's coming up this week. Sorry about that, by the way.
That's all right. I didn't even notice. I wouldn't have. Now I've got a bone to pick with you after the fact. Yeah, you can find me at Spurs Talk Show, guys. Yeah, I'm trying to get back into it. Obviously, I'm going through some horrible things in my personal life. Also, for what it's worth, like I feel like I'm on edge right now. Like I'm, as a person, as a human, I am really, really wound up with all the things that are happening in my private life. And if I come across a little bit aggressive, I do apologise to you guys in the audience. I don't mean to be, but I have run out of patience, and my temper is on edge, and I'm kind of razor thin with certain things. So sometimes I kind of go off on one and let loose when that's a different version of me. But you can find me at Spurs Talk Show. Even if you disagree with me on Levy out on any particular topic, my version of style of content is to talk about both the A and the B, what's this side, what's that side. Let's talk about it together, and then I'll tell you where I land. I don't tell you how to feel. I'll just give you my options and then let you tell me how you feel in the comment section. So Spurs Talk Show is where you can find me. Appreciate you boys. Love you guys. Thank you for having me.